ado, I'll just let you take it away.
Awesome. So it's so good to be here. Just sitting here listening to everything. Jay, I was like, you should speak. Like, you've got more wisdom than I'm going to throw out here. And just really, I'll get into my story here in a little bit, but I needed this when I was your guys' age, like beyond. And it's just an honor to be here and share, everything with you. Getting to this point was a little bit of a challenge. I think my computer was possessed by Satan. Jared, like, this isn't going to be the prettiest presentation, but I appreciate your patience, like, working with me on the technology side. And then the funny thing is, he sends me a past speaker's presentation. It's like, just follow this. And it's a good friend of mine, Brock Meadows. And I'm thinking, I got to follow this guy. And looking at him, and Brock has made jokes about his face being his money maker, and I'm like, but yeah, let's dive in. So Scott Alexander, a lot of the cliche stuff: son, husband, follower, or father, follower of Christ, sinner, connector, patriot. I was trying to come up with some. I thought about putting crybaby up here because at some point in time, I'm sure I'll shed a tear today. But working through the pictures just real quick, my wife, Heather, upper left, she's a teacher in Westerville, 27 years, 5th grade. The two middle pictures there had the blessing of baptizing both our children, which was awesome to be a part of. Working away across the top there, we spent a lot of time in Maine. Laughing about that with Mike earlier. That is, we're on top of Cadillac Mountain. Little tidbit about Cadillac Mountain: it's the first place in the United States to see sunrise every day, and it's early in the summer. It's about 4:07 a.m. Another picture in Acadia National Park. We do a lot of traveling, spend a lot of time together. Hilton Head Island, make a connection there a little bit later on. But Hilton Head, very blessed. My youngest turned 16 a couple years ago, and I said, "What do you want to do for your 16th birthday?" She's like, "Can we go to Disney?" I was like, "Let's do it." Had a boatload of airline miles and boatload of hotel points, and then Disney squeezed a lot of money out of our pockets. Another holiday celebration there. Put a little plug out. Has anybody heard of French Lick Resort?
Great spot.
Yeah, and nobody else is. Like, if you are, for those of you who are married and looking for an awesome spot to like get away from for a weekend, go to French Lick. Does anybody know where French Lick is? Southern Indiana, yeah. This place, I can't believe, like, they do a pathetic job of marketing this place because nobody's ever heard of it. And it's this phenomenal sweet spot. They've got great golf courses. They've got a great spa. Sometimes I'll refer to that as like the club and rub. So I'm going to go play golf. You're going to go, my wife. And then part of my story is the game of golf, and then bottom left, that's my daughter and I. Very competitive, very good, much better than I ever was at her age, and she is pursuing her dreams. She's going to start at the University of Findlay next Thursday. How many have kids in here? How many have girls?
Oh, well, I have a
All right.
fiance.
A little plug. If you have girls, put a golf club in their hands, because 78% of college golf scholarships go unused. For women's golf, put a golf club in their hand and watch what can happen. Yeah, I've never had one thrown at me, but yeah. Oh, I went the wrong way. So a little bit about my testimony. I lived my childhood dream, actually my second childhood dream. So at the age of 4, my parents lost me for about 50 minutes. We were on vacation at Hilton Head Island, staying on a golf course, and I, just at the age of 4, went to the garage, found a set of clubs, went out and started playing golf with somebody that was coming by. And my parents didn't find me until we were on the 9th green. So that was, at the age of 4, golf consumed my life. Wanted to be obviously it was just like, I want to be a golf professional. I want to play golf for a living. And then it pivoted a little bit. When I was in middle school, I probably saw Top Gun 7 times in the theater, and I was like, I want to go fly fighter jets. And at my high school freshman year, high school guidance counselor, he's like, what do you want to do when you grow up? I'm like, I want to fly fighter jets. And he's like, he's doing one of these. He's like looking at me, and he's looking at my file. I was like, what? And he's like, you don't like math, do you? I'm like, I hate math. I'm like, 2 + 2 = 4. They figured that out 560, however many years ago. Like, why do I need to? He's like, if you want to fly fighter jets, you got to get better at math. I'm like, well, I'm not getting better at math. So pivoted back to golf, and I was like, all right, I'm going to go become a golf professional. And I found my identity in a 300 dimple, depending on the manufacturer. I mean, that can be as high as 492 dimples. But that was my identity for so many years. Had a ton of success. In hindsight, it was worldly success at a very, very early age. Found out at the age of 22 that I was the second youngest member of the PGA of America, only behind Tiger Woods. I'm like, yeah, he can kick my butt on a golf course, and I can't even, beat him in that area. I'm about 43 days younger than Tiger. But I had zero patience. I always wanted more. It was never good enough. And then until I met my wife. And then I had some choices to make on multiple fronts. One being my father-in-law. Basically said, very early on, didn't say this bluntly until later on, but pretty much like, if you want to marry my daughter, you're going to have to redirect your path. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, and he just leaned into me. 1999, I was probably playing the best golf of my life. Was playing at a Pro-Am at Pebble Beach, of all places. It was in December. My wife's a school teacher, so she's home in northern Indiana at the time. I'm talking about how great this is, because literally we're staying on the 18th fairway at Pebble Beach, and if anybody's been to Pebble Beach, that's like, from a golf perspective, it's almost heaven on earth. Never forget this. And she's like, this sucks. I was like, what? She's like, you're doing this, you're doing that. I'm stuck here with 2 dogs, one of which was sick and couldn't stop vomiting everywhere. She's like, I don't know if this is going to work. I'm like, huh, that's interesting. Well, thanks. I'm like, because I didn't play well in that event after hearing that. But so I was like, all right, we got to probably make some choices and figure out a time to walk away from the game of the golf. From that point, though, it still took me 5 years to walk away from the game. And a little marital advice here. My wife knew that at some point I was going to walk away from it. And it was in November. Came home, and it was just like, how was your day? And she was like, how was your day? And I said, you know what? I'm done. Don't ever say that to your wife. I'm done. Because her next, you're done what? Like, she's thinking, I'm done with the marriage. I'm done with this. And I said, I'm done with the game of golf. We're going to find something else to do. So again, it took a lot of time. Church, in my life, was a lot of pain and a lot of disgust. I remember going to church as a kid, and I remember many times watching my mom go to the car in tears. never quite understood that, and it was a lot to process. It's like, wait a minute, church it's supposed to be good. It's supposed to, and, just a lot of pain. Got plugged into youth groups as a kid in high school. And then my freshman year in college, this was back before cell phones hung on a wall. You remember those days, Mike? No cordless phones, nothing. A buddy of mine from college calls me. He commands a nuclear submarine for the United States Navy today. Great guy, but I mean, he calls me and I'm just like, calm down. We called him Big Bird. I don't know how this guy fits in a submarine, to be honest with you, because he's 6'7". But I was just like, you're a mess. Like, what is wrong with you? And he's like, our youth pastor. He's like, this guy. All I hear is that guy's name, and he sexually molested my younger sister. I'm like, what? Like, and so I'm like, this stuff is nonsense. And then being a golf professional at a very, very high-end private club, we had a pastor inside the church that committing adultery, gambling, drinking, smoking. I'm like, this stuff is nonsense. But again, met my wife, and I got my father-in-law working on me. And then the power of song. I think one of the greatest ministries here in Central Ohio, and probably one of the best kept secrets, is 104.9 The River. Bill Montgomery and what those guys are doing at 104.9 The River is awesome, because, over the years, it's a well-timed song that and God has spoken to me. It's funny, my wife still doesn't believe, but like, God has spoken to me through Tina Turner, of all people, like just down in the dumps. And quite often I'll say, what do you got for me? I'll turn the radio on, and one day it was Tina Turner, You're Simply the Best. I'm just like, so I've always been the power of song and the power of worship and the stuff that can come out through that. Part of my testimony, my father-in-law, Rick Webster, Doyle Jackson. Does anybody in here know Doyle? Pastor at the church next door. He was the one that basically said, he just hit me upside the head with a 2x4, and he said, your God is that golf ball. I was like, what are you talking about? And just an awesome follower. I mean, I can't say enough about him. And then a guy named Clay Stevens. I started wearing a WWJD bracelet to stuff events like this back in 2004, and he just approached me. He's like, hey, you're the only guy in here wearing that stuff on your sleeve. Like, tell me more. And we just got to, And so with my walk with Christ, those three people were very, very important. And then a few key dates in my testimony: October 21st, 2000, married my wife. We struggled with miscarriages. We had 2. And then lo and behold, at the second, we're in with the doctors, and my wife says 3. And I was like, thought this was the second one. She's like, no, we've had. So I was like, wow, this is, that can take you down a dark path. November 19th, 2006, we were at the church next door, and they were going through a renovation, and it was funny, the church floor was an old bowling alley, like pieced together, like wooden floors, and we were going through a renovation, and we were going to cover it with carpet. And that Sunday, he must have had 150 Sharpie markers at the altar, and basically said, I want everybody to come up here and lay something at the cross, write it down, and then we're going to cover it on Monday. And I went up and I wrote, I prayed for our unborn child. And that was the first time God ever answered prayer, because 2 months later, we found out we were pregnant. So December 3rd, 2007, that's when our oldest was born. June 22nd, 2008 is when I officially proclaimed the Lord as my Savior and got baptized. And it was funny because we struggled to get pregnant. We had a beautiful daughter, got baptized, and Doyle Jackson was like, talking about how your life's going to change. That was a Sunday. We struggled to get pregnant. We thought we might not have another one. That was a Sunday, June 22nd. And then that following Tuesday, we found out we were pregnant with our youngest, and she was born February 28th, 2009. So part of the thing, you asked for business principles, life principles, so we're just going to run through, some of them, and then do an exercise here at the end. Choose your friends wisely. Proverbs 13:20. Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. Don't know if I chose my friends so wisely in college, but these are my 4 buddies from college, and to watch our spiritual journey of all 4 of them. Wow. The guy on the right, his nickname's Preacher. This guy in the middle, this guy was nuts. Probably the most talented golfer that I've ever played with. He's played in 3 major championships. Could have played in so much more, but he had too many chemicals and drugs and all kinds of stuff going through his body. That was one thing when my wife was talking about golf. She's like, you golf bros. She's like, you have 3 things in common. She's like, all your friends have 3 things in common. I'm like, what's that? She's like, you're gambling addicts, you're divorced, and a lot of you struggle with alcohol and drugs. That's why she was basically like, I don't know if this is going to work. I unfortunately was not divorced. I love the competition. I don't know if it would equate to gambling. But I was raised, my father was an alcoholic, his father was an alcoholic. So I was always cognizant of that. I've seen the Lord had put that in front of, or on my heart to like, hey, you can enjoy, some fun and everything, but you really got to watch what that could go down. So pre-believer Scott, when we were talking about friends, we used to say this all the time. A great friend will bail you out of jail. Your best friend will be in there right with you. I've never been to jail, but we'll just put that out there.
Just to clarify.
Yeah, just to clarify. The concept of generosity is one that the Lord has been working on me for a long time. John 3:16, for God so loved the world, he gave. I've really zeroed on that word, he gave. He gave his one and only son so that I believe in him can have, not perish and have eternal life. Generosity does not always equal money. I have been blessed throughout my career to where generosity a lot of times was time. But as you unpack that concept of generosity, are you generous with your tongue? Are you generous with giving his testimony? Giving your testimony, telling his story? We'll get into that in a little bit more. Somebody always said, give till it feels good. I say, no, give till it hurts. Really, really give till it hurts. So I've always lived a life of trying to give back. I give both time and money. Sit on the following boards: Central Ohio Folds of Honor. We give educational scholarships to our nation's fallen, to the families of our nation's fallen and disabled. Little quick story on that. So Folds of Honor was started by a guy named Dan Rooney. Was a fellow golf professional of mine. In 2001, 9/11, he left golf to go fly fighter jets. I was like, that's my guy. That's really my guy, because he did it in the opposite. And, and it's a long story, but he was so moved by God to start Folds of Honor. It's an awesome story. In 2008, fast forward, so a scholarship is $5,000. And this year we gave out $68 million in scholarships. We are a very, very small piece of that globally here in Central Ohio. But it's awesome to walk alongside Dan. And obviously education, my wife being a teacher, was a very, very key component of that and where we decide to be extremely generous. Relationships under construction. Johanna, you're getting to know them a little bit better. Just basically, as the father of 2 young daughters, just teaching healthy relationships and what that looks like on Christ-centered principles. And then another answer to prayer. A couple years ago, I was like, golf can be a dark sport. It can take you down a dark hole. And there's not a lot of believers inside the game of golf. So I basically said, how can we use my love of golf for the betterment or to glorify the kingdom? Literally remember saying that prayer. A couple days later, I run into Ry DeRazio, kind of out of the blue. He's like, hey, we're looking for somebody to run or get involved with our FCA golf ministry. I was like, oh, that's funny. So involved with that, and then do a lot with the FCA golf ministry here in Central Ohio. Another principle, don't follow the crowd. Pre-Christ, that was my saying, if you aren't the lead dog, the view never changes. Like you're always going to be looking up somebody's rear end. But, just don't follow the crowd. So, in what we do now, wealth management, we don't follow the crowd typically from a wealth management perspective. A lot of financial advisors, they look at wealth as a pile of money, and how do we manage that money to charge a fee and grow the money and do all that. We look at wealth can be any number of different things. It can be a pile of money. It can be a business. It can be wealth of knowledge. Like how do we pass that to the next generation? We let our clients define wealth, and then we figure out how to help them become better stewards of that wealth. But in a typical planning question from a worldly standpoint, looks like, how much do I need to X? That's usually retire, buy my first home, buy my second home. So how much do I need to send my kids to college? It means a number of different things for a number of different people. But then they'll say, well, how long does it take to get there? And then they'll commonly say, well, it'll be enough. Like that scarcity mindset, it won't be enough. We don't follow the crowd, our planning process. First we say, all right, who owns our wealth? We don't look at it from a closed fist standpoint, open fist, faced upward, recognizing that the Lord has blessed us with these resources, and he giveth and he can take it away at any given moment. We get into conversations of how much is enough. There's a lot of people that struggle to answer that question because it's never enough. And then we say, is the next generation prepared? Romans 12:2, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your minds. This is my email signature. For those in well-hired couple in wealth management, like compliance. Yeah. I was like, I don't care. I'm putting this out there. Say something. Never said a word. That's my favorite word, Godspeed, because it's purpose in motion, all in one word. So don't follow the crowd. We'll get into an exercise here in a few minutes, but I always say tell your story, even silently, and tell it in a way that's felt, not just heard. How many times does somebody come in and say, how you doing today? How you doing, brother? And you'll get great, right? Okay. Or if somebody walks in, Chris, I love you with your kid, because you tell us when I ask you that question, you tell me exactly what's going on in your family with those boys, right? Like you feel that, right? Like I want to knock these kids' heads off. I'm like, all right, I feel it. Commission, a lot of times in the financial services world, you're trying to earn a commission. There's probably other people in here, you're trying to earn a commission on that sale. Commission in my world's redefined is in the Great Commission. Tell his story. Matthew 5:14-16, you're the light of the world. Let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who's in heaven. Tell your story, even silently. A proud father moment. It was funny. In golf, you got to be to put your name on your golf bag, you got to have a certain playing ability. Joel's, he's nodding his head, you know. So she got good enough. She's like, I want my name on my golf bag. I was like, all right. And then she says, I want Philippians 4:13 right underneath it. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You know, as you start playing competitive golf, like, she does not want to use her team bag. I think her coach at Finley is going to force her to use her team bag, but she would much rather use this bag. And a couple weeks ago, we were up supporting an event for Folds of Honor at Finley Country Club. And she really didn't want to go, but I was like, you need to go. And the CFO from Marathon Oil stops her dead in his tracks, and he's like, tell me more about Philippians 4:13. She rattles it off, and he was like, way to go, kid. And I'm like, how many 18-year-olds have the chance to interact with the CFO of Marathon Oil? You know, part of my story, I mean, agricultural roots down there, that's the farm. That is taken from the grave sites where most of my relatives are buried. Overlooking a farm up in northeast Ohio. And in a little bit, we're going to go through an IEM exercise that will help you tell your... Are we stuck here? I knew there was going to be a technology challenge. So another concept, go before you're ready. I think you said something about,
joking,
or talking about.
I was like, the best is when you're comfortable, but that never happens.
Yeah. So this is a concept of, or a principle that actually came from Dan Rooney that I alluded to, that started Folds of Honor and flies F-16s for our country. I've leaned into him, and at times I'm a sponge, and I'm like, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. And did not know this, but when you fly F-16s, your fourth flight in an F-16 is a solo flight. I'm seeing a lot of, like, can you believe that? Like, he's like sitting on the runway. It's his fourth flight in an F-16. And he's like, the government is trusting me with a $38 million machine. Like, and he's like, and he remembers sitting there going, I'm not ready for this. And the Lord was like, go. You're ready. You know, and a lot of times, so this concept of flying into the wind, you know, go into the headwinds. I know we all want tailwinds and we want life to be easy, but the only way that you're going to get that jet off the ground or any aircraft off the ground is to fly into the wind. And I just think there's some really good stuff about that. You know, because if you're waiting until you're comfortable and you're making it about you, you're missing the point. Were you in church on Sunday?
Yeah.
I mean, Samson, I thought did a wonderful job.
Great.
Yeah. You're missing the point if you're waiting for whatever. We're going to wait to have kids because we can't afford it. We're going to wait to do this. If the Lord is pushing you down a path, go. Don't ask questions, go. I think, Noah, you said something about just put your foot in the door, right? Keep the door open and go. Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. That was me. I couldn't get out of my own way. I could not get out of my own way. So go before you're ready. We're going to probably date people here, but I'll be surprised if somebody knows. You guys might know the laugh, think, cry quote.
Jimmy V.
Yep, Jimmy V. Does anybody know who Jimmy V is? Okay. Great speech. To me, there are three things we should do every day. We should do this every day of our lives. Number one is laugh. You should laugh every day. Number two is think. You should spend some time in thought. And number three is you should have your emotions move to tears. It could be happiness or joy, but think about it. If you laugh, you think, and you cry, that's a full day. That's a heck of a day. You do that 7 days a week, you're going to have something special. So spend every day, laugh, think, cry. The power of song, explained by the great prophet George Strait. I love this song, I Saw God Today, because we opened it up. Like, how have you seen God working in your lives? The chorus to that is, I've been to church, I've read the book, I know he's here, but I don't look near as often as I should. Yeah, I know I should. His fingerprints are everywhere. I just looked down to stop and stare, open my eyes, and I saw God today. Like, his fingerprints are everywhere. Yeah, it's just like, where have you seen God work in our lives? If you just stop and think about it, it's every second. It's every second of every day. Romans 12:15, rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. In Philippians 4:8, finally, brothers, whatever's true, whatever's honorable, whatever's just, whatever's pure, whatever's lovely, think about these things. Kind of ties into that. Laugh, think, cry. And then lastly, as we wrap up here, again, what I struggled with for so many years, surrender control, seek him, choose freedom. And then remember the price paid for freedom. It isn't free. It never has been free, and it never will be free. Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. In John 15:13, greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. Christ laying down his life for us, our military, making the ultimate sacrifice to protect the blanket of freedom that every single one of us sleep under every single night. On the left here, some golf analogy. This is Old Head golf course in Kinsale, Ireland. This piece of land, the guy bought for $200,000. It was farmland. And he said, I'm going to build a golf course. And they said, no, you're not. There is no way you're building a golf course here. I've played some great golf courses. This isn't, from a golf standpoint, it's not the best test of golf I've ever played, but it is 100% the most beautiful piece of property in the game of golf that I've ever laid my eyes on. He paid $200,000 for it. Their daily revenue is $80,000 a day. Yeah, it's crazy. Went there with 12 of my friends. Non-believers were weeping, walking down the fairways of this place. And one of them, non-believer, he's like, this is spiritual. I'm like, all right, you really want to get into what spiritual means? And he's like, yes, tell me more. So again, it was an answer to prayer. How do I use the game of golf to get at people's hearts? And then somebody said, you can live one of two ways, either through a world view or a word view. There's one hell of a difference. And then lastly, be iron. Probably everybody in here is 27, or Proverbs 27:17. Iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpen another. The power of what's going on in this room within CBMC, in this community, the power of an invite. This is my daughter's favorite golf hat. Yeah, just be iron with, in everything that you do. And again, it's so good to sit in a room full of people like this. And then the power of the connection. Back to Johanna here. There was a point in time where my daughter's game was not progressing at the level she wanted it to progress. And I remember I told you I can take you down a dark place. I was sharing some things with Johanna, and he's like, hey, you got to talk to this guy in Hilton Head Island. I'm like, who's he? He's a mental coach. That was the piece she was missing. I always said sports psychologist to her. She's like, I don't need a shrink. Psychologists had that negative connotation. He connected and like game went to another. And you, what's your relationship with?
We've known each other for probably 15, 20 years. I used to have a sports training business up until recently, and he's worked with some of our athletes before. And then Phil actually used to be a pastor for many years here in Columbus. So yeah, we've just known each other for a long time.
Yeah. But I'm like, you know, I told you Hilton Head Island, and then he's like, oh, you got to meet this guy in Hilton Head Island. I'm like, it's crazy how the Lord has his hands on everything. So, so a quick exercise, or any thoughts, questions before? Ask away.
You briefly touched on how you were a wealth advisor. You mentioned you weren't good at math in the very early stages of the conversation.
Yeah. My wife brings that up all the time. My answer to that is the math I do involves numbers at all times. It doesn't involve shapes. It doesn't involve letters. It doesn't involve exponents. So I always say that's like third grade math at some levels. But there is some, yeah.